Welcome back to Ron's Radio Corner. And clearly, this is not a radio. It is a piece of carry-on luggage. And the reason I wanted to stray away from talking about radios to talking about luggage, which, heck, I did a Monopoly game, why not luggage? But the reason I wanted to talk about luggage is because I recently took a trip and I had a piece of luggage fail spectacularly. Part of that was my fault. I got the wheel jammed up and broke the wheel off the suitcase. And then I had a handle break off. So I ended up having to find a piece of luggage while at my destination that I could actually bring my clothes back home because the suitcase that or the carry-on that I had brought with me wasn't going to make the return trip. And this isn't that suitcase or that carry-on. I picked up something a little less expensive and then decided that I really wanted to get something that was a good quality good quality carry-on, something dependable, and really sort of struggled to find something. I like to do a lot of research, and I had a lot of frustration, and that's sort of why I wanted to put together a video on it, just because I was really frustrated by the whole thing. Now, it really kind of comes down to this. I wanted a carry-on bag that I could take on pretty much any domestic flight here in the United States. And those dimensions are, vary from airline to airline, but it looks like 22 by 14 by 9 is the small bag. American Airlines uses this, JetBlue uses this, United uses this. So, although there are some other airlines like Southwest that you can have a bigger bag than that, if you want to have a carry-on that you can pretty much take on any airline, 22 by 14 by 9 is the size that you want. Now the problem is when you start looking at carry-on bags, you find that there's a whole bunch out there that call themselves a carry-on bag, but they are not 22 by 14 by 9. There are all sorts of dimensions, mostly over those dimensions. So I looked at tons of suitcases and carry-ons on Amazon. I looked at some in local stores. I watched YouTube videos where people rated different bags and looked at different bags. And the first thing I found was there were lots of people who were saying, oh, here's the perfect carry-on bag, but they were bigger than 22 by 14 by 9. And even though they might say, and you're probably hearing some background noise because it is fairly nice weather and I have some windows open. Even if they're saying, oh, you can take this on any airline. Yeah, it's a little bit bigger, but it'll fit in the baggage sizer, so you'll be fine. Well, I wanted a bag that was 22 by 14 by 9. I didn't want to take the chance that, that I would have any sort of problem. I'm not someone who does a great deal of traveling, and for me, I want the least stressful experience possible, and that means having a bag that's the right size. To me, someone saying, well, a bag that's slightly over that is probably never going to be an issue is a little bit like having the speed limit be 30 miles an hour, but being told, well, you can drive 40 down this road. You'll probably never get a ticket. And that could be true until the one time that you get a ticket, and then you're upset because you got a ticket, but all the while you were driving faster than you should have been driving. Well, same deal. You're getting the one time someone says, okay, you're going to have to check this bag because it's too big for a carry-on, you're going to be upset even though you bought something that clearly was bigger than the size you should have had. So I did a whole bunch of researching, and the next thing I found out, besides a lot of carry-on bags being bigger than the dimensions they should be, sometimes the bag is about the right size, but then when you add the wheels and handles, it's not, and they go by the wheel to the handle. So, um, you know, it doesn't really cut it if the bag is the right size, but with the wheels, it's not. It's just not how they measure them. The next thing I found was that the price of luggage is all over the map. But if you want something that people universally praise for being well made, and you want something that's the right sizes and dimensions, uh, those usually don't come cheap. This bag I thought was kind of expensive, but it is when you start looking at what you can buy on Amazon or go to Walmart and find for much less money. But it's not when you start looking at what other luggage cost. This bag, I think, lists for about 150. I spent a bit less than that because I got discount codes or something. But um, I thought that's a lot of money for somebody who may, who knows when I'll actually get on an airplane with it. But it's the right size. It's well made. When I looked at reviews of the best carry-on luggage options and things like that, um, this brand, Travelpro, came up quite a bit. And this bag, the Maxlite 5, was mentioned over and over again, both in YouTube reviews and online articles. So I don't know how much I can say about this or show about this, or if you're even going to care about this. But here we go. Nice little roller bag. It's got the telescoping handle, which you're not going to be able to see because how I have this located. But one of the things that they said with this, I don't know if I can. I don't really want to film myself here, but one of the things they said with this is that this handle has two positions, depending on how tall you are. I don't know, can you see the top of that? There we go. I'm a fairly tall guy, not much wobble there, which is nice. The handle on the top here is soft, as well as the side one here, which is nice. And there's a little grip underneath here, so if you were putting it into the overhead bin, it's got a nice pocket in the front. As well as sort of a deeper opening. And you can tell with everything on it that I haven't used this at all yet. So, pretty standard stuff. I wouldn't call any of this revolutionary, right? Straps keep your clothes down, one big pocket, there's zips. The door's got a mesh compartment here. There's also a little compartment in there. From some of the reviews I was reading, the bag I had that failed was sort of a plastic clamshell. A lot of YouTube reviewers said they really liked the style bag that just opened up from the top. They found it easier to pack and use. And then I read that cloth bags tend to be a little more durable. You think the plastic or the hard shell would be, but they may be from the standpoint of protecting what's inside, possibly. But it's usually clothes. I mean, you're not usually carrying like tons of china or something to carry on. A good canvas or cloth bag seems to hold up better to the abuses of, if it had to be checked or just being thrown into the overhead bins and so far, so on and so forth. So I really can't say too much more about it. I haven't used it yet, but it feels really well made. It's good quality. I went with a color that wasn't black, so if I'm on an airplane again, I can more easily spot my bag versus all the other ones. But my frustration was that those minimum requirements, 22 by 14 by 9, I have those numbers like almost like seared in my brain. And when you go look, there's all sorts of bags that you find that even if you search for that size on Amazon, you'll see all sorts of bags that come up, and then when you start looking, they're actually a half inch too big here, an inch too big there, whatever the case may be. So, Travelpro Maxlite 5 fits those dimensions. It's well made. For a well-made piece of furniture, I get of luggage, not furniture, a well-made piece of luggage. I think the price is actually probably pretty reasonable. Um, for me, as a very occasional traveler, it seemed like an indulgence, but I would rather spend 150 on a suitcase I can count on versus maybe $50 or $60 on one that might fall apart after a few trips. So there you go. Thanks for watching.